Joining us now, Ben Cline. Ben is a House of Delegates member from the Lynchburg area. He's also the chairman of the Conservative Caucus there. He and I have been aligned on some of the most important issues of the day for a very long time, although he doesn't always get them passed, like trying to get rid of red light cameras, which is one of the best ideas ever in Virginia. Of course, every time he brings that up, the money grubbers have 18 reasons why they need to keep extorting money from you to fund their governments. It has nothing to do with safety. It's just extortion. So he's right on that. And he's also a champion of freedom of the press and liberty and many other good things. And he's running for Congress in the 6th District, which is a Republican district, for the seat of the retiring Bob Goodlatte, who's the Judiciary Chairman, who's hanging up his spikes at the end of this term. And so this nomination is going to be decided at a convention in Harrisonburg on May 19th, right? Saturday, May 19th, in Harrisonburg at the JMU Convocation Center. And the Republican nominee is overwhelmingly likely to be the next congressman from the area. There's 8 candidates in the race, but only 3 have a legitimate chance to win. The favorite, Cynthia Dunbar, State Committee woman, Ben Cline, who's coming on now just to set the table, and Chaz Haywood, who is the clerk of court in Harrisonburg and surrounding counties. And there's been a lot of shenanigans going on in this race. Scott Sayre, we are calling it the rigged convention. We think it's been corrupt from the first day. They're trying to rig it for Dunbar. And now they've banned the media. They've banned me and everybody else from going on the floor. I've broadcasted these conventions forever, Democrat, Republican, state, district, it doesn't matter. You always get to go on the floor so you can bring transparency, pot into their boxes, bring the speeches. No, we've been kicked out. And they kicked us upstairs to the 3rd floor of the mezzanine where we can't talk to anybody, so you really can't broadcast it. The whole thing is a complete joke. So that's what's going on. Joining us now, Ben Cline. Ben, great to have you with us.
John, thanks for letting me join you this morning. It's good to be with you.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about, Ben. I'm going to get to your campaign, but we got to start with this convention. You are one of 5 candidates, along with Chaz Haywood, Catherine Lewis, Ed Justo, and others.
Doug Wright.
And signing a petition to encourage that Jack Wilson, my chairman in the 4th District, be the temporary chairman, because you feel that Steve Albertson, who has been named the temporary chairman by Scott Sayre, who's trying to rig the convention, is a Dunbar partisan. What is going on here?
Well, it's unfortunate that it's been happening the way we've anticipated it ever since they tried to change it from a normal convention to a plurality back around 4 months ago. We knew that they were going to try and rig the rules to benefit their candidate, but we're putting forward our own candidate for independent temporary chair, and Jack Wilson ran the convention 2 years ago, and it was by all accounts judged to be a fair and well-run convention. And you know, you remember that was when Dunbar beat Obenchain.
That's right.
So I don't think that they would have any opposition to Jack Wilson, because by their account, he ran a fair convention as well. So we are optimistic that we're going to have the delegates seated at 10 o'clock, and they're going to vote Jack Wilson in, and then we'll have a fair convention with a majority vote required to elect a nominee rather than just a plurality.
All right, so I did talk to Jack last night just to confirm that yes, indeed, he is going to do this. And as you said, he did run the state convention, the Republican Party of Virginia State Convention, in 2013. But Steve Albertson says he's going to still run against him. So it's going to be Albertson who runs the Bull Elephant blog. And Albertson is a big-time lawyer, all right? Big time. Makes a lot of money. Big firm in D.C., big time. So
Steve Albertson's a good friend and a good conservative, and he would do his best to run a fair convention. But because he's been asked by Chairman Sayre and Vice Chairman Tiedrick, who is Cynthia Dunbar's campaign manager, to run the convention, we don't feel that the committees would be allocated fairly necessarily. because all of the temporary committees that they've set up have been stacked with Dunbar supporters. That's why the press is not allowed on the floor. That's why children are not allowed on the floor. The rules are very cumbersome and designed to limit access to delegates. There was talk of no campaigning on the floor, which I've never heard of in a convention in my life, but I think they've backed off of that rules change.
All right, so let's get to the media end of this, which is where my involvement has come in. And I'm just flabbergasted by this, Ben. I've never seen this. I've covered these conventions, quite frankly, much to my chagrin, for a long time, right? I don't like conventions. I don't feel like giving my Saturday up with my family to sit there for 9 hours. But I feel that, look, it's my duty to do that because I want people to be able to just hit a button on my app or go to the internet, johnfredericksradio.com, and hit the button, and we're live, and we can broadcast everything that's going on as it's happening. Now, I have done these at the Democratic State Convention, the Republican State Convention, Lieutenant Governor Convention, district conventions. I've done these on both sides of the aisle, in state and district, and I've done it nationally. Cleveland, Tampa, Philadelphia, Charlotte. Never in my life have I been thrown off the floor, along with the other media. And basically what Scott Sayer, who was trying to rig this thing from the beginning, the current chairman, has said is they've relegated media to a third-floor mezzanine box, which is 3 floors up on the James Madison University Basketball Center, which you have no broadcast. You can't do anything up there. You can't talk to people. You can't get access. You can't follow what's going on. It's a complete joke. And so this has never been done. So why have they done this?
The freedom of the press and the way that we grow this party, the way we grow the Republican Party, is by broadcasting our views, broadcasting the values to the nation, to the state, to the nation, because these are majority values: freedom, opportunity, low taxes, limited government. These are all the values that a majority of Americans share. And the more we broadcast these values out to people, the more they'll be drawn to the Republican Party. And if we can put forward a positive message of change to get up there and help our president to make America great again, drain the swamp, that's what we need to do. I want to be that candidate, and that's why I'm fighting for a majority vote decision to make sure that it's a majority of the delegates who choose their nominee and not a slim plurality nominating someone who limps out of a convention with less than half of the convention hall's support going up against the Democrats and their multi-million-dollar Nancy Pelosi fundraising machine. We can't have that. We need to have a strong nominee coming out of this convention, and I'm the candidate who can bring the party together with that positive message and go take it to the Democrats in the fall. You know, this is 6 months to the day, John, from the day that Goodlatte announced his retirement. It's been 6 months that I've been battling within my own party for a fair and open convention. I want to turn to the next 6 months, which are going to be battling the Democrats, because we've got the message that's going to win. We've got the fight in us to take it to Washington, to change the way things are done, and I'm going to be that nominee to take that change to Washington.
Well, in order to do that, the first vote is going to be for the temporary chair. Is that going to be the first vote?
Right. That'll be the first vote. Yep.
So that'll
we're
be
already
Steve
sending out messages to our supporters saying Jack Wilson's who we need to vote for.
So that'll be Jack Wilson versus Steve Albertson. Now, Steve Albertson has run these conventions. He's very savvy. He's a big-time lawyer, makes a lot of money, and, you know, he knows all the parliamentarian tricks. I mean, I like Steve. He's a good friend of mine, but he's also a formidable dude, man. He's formidable. He's not a country guy. This guy's big time. And so that's going to be your first vote.
There's no campaigning for the office. I mean, it's just a matter of who's got more delegates in their seats at the time, and we've signed up more delegates. We've got the enthusiasm on our side. We're going to have more delegates there when we get there.
So when you say
we're anxious, we're going to win that vote.
You've said that you've signed up more delegates. Quantify that.
Well, it looks like around 4,200 delegates have registered for this convention. And we have confirmed through our efforts over the last 6 months that we have signed up more than anybody else. And our numbers are changing because folks are either signing, agreeing to come or having conflicts. But we're optimistic, based on our numbers, that we're going to have more delegates in attendance than anybody else.
All right, so the Cline campaign, you're confident of the 4,200 that you've got more delegates of that number who have signed up, pledged to you. Obviously, who shows up is the whole game. But
That's right.
You're telling me that you've got more delegates on paper pledged to you than the Cynthia Dunbar campaign.
That's right, and we've got the excitement. This is my supporters are strong conservatives from across the 6th District who want to see change in Washington, who want to see someone get up there who's a fighter who can get things done, not someone who's just going to
Go ahead.
Not have anything happen. But we're going to actually get things accomplished.
All right, so Ben, you've got more delegates, so I would assume that Chaz Haywood, who also has a bunch of delegates, I mean, he's got a base in Harrisonburg. I would assume that his people are going to be told to vote for Jack Wilson over Albertson. So the first vote is going to be Wilson-Albertson. Then is the second vote going to be whether or not the nominee is decided by plurality or majority? Is that your understanding?
Well, at that point, we will assign committees, and then we will come back with a rules package that we're actually in conversations with all of the players, including the Dunbar campaign, about a package of rules that we might be able to agree to that we can resolve a lot of the conflict. But if they insist on leaving open the door to a plurality convention, then we're going to insist on our rules, which will be a majority to decide the convention, a normal convention process. We'll have that rules vote. That'll be the second vote. And then the third vote likely will be the election of 6th District Chair, Vice Chairs, and our nominee for Congress, the first ballot.
So on the first ballot, you're going to find out who the chairman is, who the vice chairman is, and the first ballot for the congressional nominees. That'll be on the first ballot.
Right.
And what time does the convention start? What time is it actually slated to start?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. in Harrisonburg. But you're really not going to see anything happening until what? I mean, when will the first vote be on Albertson Wilson? Noon? I mean, what's your thinking?
We would hope it would be before noon.
All right, so sometime 11 a.m. to noon, right? So that's going to be your first ballot. And now what about, they were talking about challenging the credentials. How does that work?
Well, the credentials committee, there's a temporary credentials committee that's been established. They're setting up rules and having hearings about challenges to credentialed delegates and seeing if they're going to be challenged at the convention or not. And ultimately it comes down to, at the convention, whether the delegates in a group accept or reject who the credentials committee has decided can vote. And so, again, just like with the rules, it all comes down to who shows up. It's very important that everybody show up who wants to see real change in Washington, that we get the change we need for a fair and open convention, and we send a nominee out there with a majority vote by a majority of the delegates who are appropriately credentialed. That's our goal.
What a corrupt mess. So they started the Scott Sayer, who's the chairman now. We call him Scott the Rigger, right? And this basically, in our view, is the Harrisonburg hustle. So they start out by trying to change the rules to make it a plurality election, which is breaking precedent, never been done. It's always a majority, and there's reasons for that. So they start with that. Then the state committee has to get involved. Then the delegates come in. They don't release the delegates to all of the campaigns until they previously released them to Dunbar. Then we find out that Dunbar is working for Scott Sayer. Then we find out that Matt Tedrick is working for Dunbar, who's one of the unit chairs. Then we find out they want to scam the convention by putting their guy Albertson in. Then they ban the media so that they can continue to scam it and not have it broadcast. I mean, it's like, can anybody out there understand now why the Republican Party can't win a statewide election with this nonsense going on in a district like the 6th, which should be, big Republican? It's unbelievable, Ben, what they've done.
Well,
This is why I hate conventions. And like, why are we
banned? Have the people there.
So how can you get the media on the floor?
Well, I'm confident that once our temporary chair nominee wins, once Jack Wilson is chosen, we will be able to pass a rules package that allows the media on the floor. And that's my intention, is to advocate for a normal convention where the media is on the floor and campaigning is allowed on the floor and children are allowed on the floor. This is a celebration. This is about celebrating who we are as a party, what we stand for, what we believe in. We're going to have a raucous good time, and we're going to leave that convention with a nominee who's strong, who's got a majority of support from a majority of delegates, and who's ready to go up against the Democrats and kick some tail and get up to Washington and get things done with our president.
So they banned campaigning on the floor, so they don't want the Dunbar people, which they view as a rock, to be persuaded. They banned the media because as they manipulate the rules through parliamentarian tactics to their advantage, they don't want that broadcast. And they banned children just because, I don't know, they don't want to have any fun. I don't know what the problem is. I mean, why would you ban kids, for heaven's sake? All right, so look. And then they say they're doing all this to accommodate the handicapped people. I mean, that whole thing is absurd, right? So what you're saying...
There is a way to do both. We did it 2 years ago.
Yeah, you did
We had it in the same location, and the press was on the floor, and the disability community was on the floor with us fine, and everybody had a great time. And Jack Wilson was the temporary chair, and it came off without a hitch. So we anticipate the same thing happening. We just got to get over this first hurdle and get Jack Wilson elected as temporary chair.
All right, so we go upstairs in the third level mezzanine where you can't see anybody. But then if you guys change the rules right there, you allow the media can come down, then my team can just come downstairs, set up a table, and we're on the air.
There you go.
That's a plan. It's a better plan than I had when you got on 20 minutes ago. It's a better plan than we had at 7:35. Ben Cline, thanks for being with us. People want more info. Where do they go?
BenCline.com. And we'll look forward on Ben Cline on Facebook, and we're looking forward to a great victory here in about 11 days and taking the fight to the Democrats and to the bureaucracy in the swamp in Washington.